Please help me welcome my amazing co-panelists. We have Kamuela Enos, who's going to be joining us. He is the Director of Indigenous Innovation at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And I'm so glad. I'm going to let Kamu introduce himself. But before he does, I'm very happy to invite the founder, the farmer, and the featured bright spot in our Regenerating Paradise video series, Sean Anderson from Full Circle Farms. So, Kamu, tell us a little bit about the Center for Indigenous Innovation and what you guys are up to.
Aloha mai kako, Kamuela Enos. It says doctor on the invite, which is super awesome. PhD. That's what I guess. That's how I get a PhD is do something. I'm a master's, but a master's of the universal humans now. So aloha mai. So I'm originally from the community of Waianae. My father and a group of his peers in the 70s occupied land in the back of Waianae Valley, and they brought down water and restored the Oikalo. And I'm his oldest son. He had zero work-life boundaries, so I joke I have about 43 years of applied experience in regenerative food systems, and about 20 of them was voluntary. But I think what the Office of Indigenous Innovation really is trying to do is located within the Office of Research and Innovation for UH System. And it was called into being in partnership with Vice President Vasilis, but also Mount Farms, Kamehameha Schools, Purple Mountain Foundation, an array of indigenous founded organizations that want to occupy the space of innovation and have it claim it as restoration. Like the systems that were here for thousands of years optimized for regeneration. And now that there's a great groundswell of interest in it, I think there's a chance for indigenous communities to show up and claim our shit. So that's what we're gonna do.
Ew. Thanks, Kamu. And Sean, tell us a little about you and how you came to create Full Circle Farms.
Thank you. Is it okay that I have my mask off?
I mean, I do.
I just got one shot, so I got my mask on, so you use it.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone involved in making this happen. This is awesome. It's my first time in this space, and it's really, really great. Thank you so much. So yeah, I started Green Rose Farm, which you saw in the short Regenerating Paradise clip, about 9 years ago, right after college. And at that time, my goal was to try to do everything, and that didn't work. I got really close to the point of complete burnout, and just minor burnout. And I left the farm, and actually I love seeing this because in that time off from the farm, I was thinking about what I wanted to do and got re-in-touched with my, that's a new word, my love for soil and compost and sharing that with other people. And I was remembering like how much I love doing that. And I was on a flight back home, and I was madly journaling the whole story of what Full Circle Farm is and was going to become. And I landed in San Francisco, and I had service, and I turned my phone on, and I had an email from Ashley, which was a first draft clip of that movie. And it was like a little image from the universe of myself from the past. And I was seeing myself like so stoked about compost and dirt. And I was like, yes, that is me. That's what I want to do. And so that's what led to rebranding the farm as Full Circle Farm. And our goal is to talk about compost, to educate and demonstrate about how to regenerate soil and many other full circular systems that we want to talk about and experiment with. So that's what Full Circle is. I love soil. I love talking about it. I love touching it. Get in touch with me and come out and smell some soil. It's my favorite thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Kamu, I'm wondering, as a Native Hawaiian leader in the food system work here in Hawaii, what wisdom you feel communities here offer to the conversation about the future of our food?
It was really cool watching the show, especially Paul Hawken. I had a chance, well, before the full part that I need to also make clear is before I was in Office of Indigenous Innovation. I worked at Ma'o for 11 years, based on my voice. And I was a director of social enterprise. And then we set this office up. And one of the last things I did while I was at Ma'o was we flew up to Swarthmore University and did a panel with Paul Hawken. And had a chance to talk to him. His next book, he was saying, was going to be Indigene, around the indigenous, the rise of indigeneity. And if you look at, full disclosure, I stole his book too when I was in college. I used to work at Borders, and I was getting my Hawaiian Studies degree, and we had cargo pants. So I figured it's probably ceded land, and you won't have to pay for that shit. So I shoved Natural Capitalism in my pocket. And I went home and I read that alongside Lili Kalal Kame'elehiva's Native Land and Foreign Desires. And I realized they're talking about the same thing. And I was like, oh, we knew this shit before them. Why are they letting them tell us what to do and what sustainability is? So I think fast forward when we talked to Paul, he was really excited about what's happening in indigenous communities. And if you look at Project Drawdown, I think number 4 or 5 is indigenous land management. So I think the part that's really exciting is to gently remind people that the systems that are really cool and awesome now have actually been in existence for many generations, if not thousands of years, and have to embed in a conversation about equity, of restoring land practices back, and understanding ancestral wisdom as a science and technology that needs to be sitting alongside contemporary approaches.
Thanks, Kamu. Snap, snap, snap. Sean, as somebody who has built an entire sort of lifestyle model around compost, can you take people through the story of our food waste and how it transforms on your farm?
Yes. And just want to ditto what was said and full on. And I feel like it's kind of a missed opportunity of Kiss the Ground actually to mention that part, that the problem they're talking about isn't like it's a new problem that was created and now we're finding a solution to a new problem. That problem wasn't a problem. In fact, waste itself is a human created concept. There's no such thing as waste in nature. And indigenous communities knew that, and there was not waste in these indigenous systems. So that's a huge piece there. So compost is the natural process of decomposition, as we saw. And so what we do is we collect food waste from places around and restaurants and supermarkets, and we receive compost from households. We were in partnership with Community Compost Movement, continue to be in partnership. It comes onto the farm, we mix it with mulch, we turn it into compost. We feed it to chickens, we feed it to worms, and through those processes, it turns into beautiful soil. And by doing so, we're getting it out of the conventional waste stream, which is here mostly going to the incinerator, where it is literally a waste. I don't like to really call it food waste unless we're talking about that. I like to call it food scraps or food resource, which it really is. It's only a waste if we end up throwing it away in the landfill or burning it. Otherwise, it's a beautiful resource that can become beautiful soil.
Thanks.
I blacked out. Was that what?
Yeah, that was great. You were really smart. You sounded great. What's exciting you right now, Kamu, in your work, envisioning the future, the new, new with a silent K, the new future of food here? What companies, what projects?
I think what's really exciting is, I think now more than ever, when one system is failing, there's an opportunity for, well, I think of this thing my dad used to say, And I'm probably swearing much because I didn't know I could have alcohol, and this is the first beers I've had in a long time.
Woo!
Remember Magoo's across the street? I think I'm just catching those vibes. But where there's a hole, people tend to shit. And that with a positive leadership, then you're going to get bad metrics. And if a society is based off of metrics, I think communities have the ability to be strategic about their work, measure it, and show aggregated impacts like we did at Ma'o with the BMIs. And not have to ask people for stuff, but just be like, you're not doing your job, and we are. And I think how you have those types of conversations strategically is really exciting because it's not enough to yell at a system. I mean, that's just the first step. And I think the important part, but anybody who's a farmer, I'm always down with because that's an everyday thing. And how you kind of build that type of resilience and learning approach and slowly take the reins back and drag tables to your community. I think that's just really exciting.
I think it's really exciting that UH is opening an Office of Indigenous Innovation and starting to highlight those voices more formally in the building of curriculum and education in the state. And I know we have a lot of educators in this room tonight, and so snaps to you guys for helping to bring this into our schools. I know, Sean, you have tons of kids coming onto the farm all the time. Tell us a good story about kids being on the farm and learning what they learn when they come and hear about Full Circle.
Awesome. I like to say that we create experiences for the children of all ages. So the kid in all of us, because that's kind of how I feel when I'm on the farm and playing with soil. And yeah, there's really nothing that brings me more joy than sharing that with kids. I'll tell a story. So one of the big like demonstrations I love to do, I'm showing people about compost. I do it like a cooking show, like here's your ingredients, mix them together, and 20 minutes later out of the oven, you've got this made thing. And I show them the food waste, the mulch, an active pile, and then of course a finished pile of compost. And inevitably, every time I do this demonstration, I'm digging through and there's these terrible stickers, labels, right? Stuff that didn't break down. Perfect, as almost I placed them there. And I just love to show that to people, especially the youth, and say, look, really simply, the stuff that nature makes turns back into soil. There's a plan for it. There's a system in place called nature and compost. The stuff that we make, these plastic things, doesn't, and this is the real problem, this plastic trash. It's ending up in the ocean and all over my farm and all over everywhere. So I had a group of kids there one time, and we just started this little chant, and I was going, no more stickers on our fruit. No more stickers on our fruit. And they're chanting and chanting, and it was awesome. And for like weeks, I'm hearing about it from parents and friends, like, my kid is still going, no more stickers on our fruit. And that just like brings me so much joy. And sweetest thing, like a month later, this group of kids came back to the farm with a sign made out of trash they'd collected from the beach that says, no more stickers on our fruit. And it hangs proudly in our breezeway and reminds me every day, like, yes, this is why I do what I do. So that's the kind of fun, exciting moments we like to have. And it warms my heart, and it's an honor to be doing that and doing it here. And thank you.
Yeah. No more stickers on our fruit. No more stickers on our fruit. So, Kamu, I know at Ma'o, you guys also work really closely with youth. Can you tell people a little bit about the human life cycle of Ma'o Farms and how you guys are growing youth alongside now being the largest organic farm in the state? Hey.
It's been a while since I've been back. I think what is important to understand when you think about soil is people. And one of the things that I'm learning more and more from some of my friends who are archaeologists, is the notion of Kanaka constructed soil. Is that the soil on these islands were a legacy piece intentionally constructed. And if you look at our, like the Kumulipo our cosmogonic chants, it starts with soil first. And that's the sentient ancestral landscape off of which everything lives. And like the most important term we have is Allah Aina. So soil poverty, as Kukui, the founder of Ma'o, always says, is a term that started with soil. So where there's poor soil, there's poor people. And this idea, you can't regenerate soil without regenerating people, because otherwise it'll just be the domain of Hollywood stars. You have to look at where are the people in that soil restoration process, and how do you track the metrics of soil regeneration and human capacity, and how do people own the means of production. I think when you cultivate soil and you cultivate leaders, I think you're setting the future up to have resilient people in soil and restore that real key fundamental piece. And then we had to turn that into contemporary programs that had them go to college and grow food, and I lost all my hair because it's not easy. But I do think those fates are intertwined. And the more you're able to make these systems that are deeply ancestral, but hit contemporary metrics, and look at the lowest part of the Maslow pyramid of people and soil as what's being built together, I think humanity has a fighting chance.
Here, here.
Hey, when Kamu talks, it's like we're listening to a modern day Socrates. It's very prophetic. It would be helpful, Kamu, for those who haven't ever heard of Ma'o Farms to hear maybe logistically what that project is doing.
I don't work there anymore. I don't want to misrepresent it. But when I was there,
When you were there.
we were a community. So thank you, Ashley. So it was founded by members of the community, Kukui Mauna Kea and Gary, her husband. And it was built off of a genealogy of resistance, because Waianae is home to the largest concentration of Native Hawaiians in the world. And I guess really quickly, what the intention was to Kukui and Gary and the legacy of activism that was always land-based in Waianae was to restore the two most important assets of any community, the youth and the land, together. So it was created in the form of a social enterprise, which is a not-for-profit that generated revenue. The revenue generating side of the farm was now 236-acre organic farm. But the social part of it was the daily operations were then, and it's kind of shifting a little bit now, but when I started was entirely run by adults from Waianae community, where I'd recruit kids from Waianae and Nanakuli, where I dropped out of Waianae High School, to go to college. They sign a contract to work on the farm 16 hours a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In exchange for the sweat equity, we provide a full tuition waiver to college and a starting monthly stipend. And we asked them to sign a contract for 2 years because we graduate them on time with their associates and move them on to their baccalaureate. So as the farm grew, so did the youth leadership. And I think that's the key thing that you saw in the video, is that we didn't call the internship farming or college internship. We called the leadership internship, because the ancestors couldn't lead if the food wasn't growing. And a chief who tried to do that got killed pretty quickly. So we had this sense of like, if you want to lead, grow food for your people and empower yourself. So it's kind of in a nutshell.
So I'd love to open it up for questions from you guys for the panel, or just reflections on the film. I will say that sometimes open mic turns into a little bit of a grandstand from the audience. So asking you if you just have comments to limit it to 2 minutes or less. Anyone? Yeah. Up. So we'll start with James Go Green McKay. And then
Green goes, actually. Green goes.
switched it up.
It's my Arizona joke. Anyway, I wanted to ask about going to the movie, and Sean and Danielle, and actually Center for Food Safety is kind of merging that, about the composting. Like, is Oahu or Hawaii, but I think specifically Oahu, since we're the only island with an incinerator, has there ever been a bill on the green waste fee? Like, as in, if you do throw away your food scraps, you should get paid or fined to do that. And is that because I know there is an issue with the H Power is actually a pay-to-play production energy company. So they want as much waste as they can get, which, to Sean's point, they're wasting a very valuable resource, which should go back into the INA. So we kind of like, it's a very problematic issue, but I think it's one that needs to be addressed. And I'm wondering, on a legislative point, has that actually really seriously been addressed yet, or is that on the to-do list that we should be looking at for next session?
Sure. Not that I know of, but I think it's on the to-do list. So other countries that I know of, I think Finland recently did pass legislation to divert organic waste from their incinerators, and it's proven to like make their incinerators much more efficient. So there is clearly an incentive to like collaborate and work together, and get that food waste, get that food scraps out of the, incinerator and into composting. I think right now our goal is to make composting normal, and encourage people to do it at a home scale, but keep having these conversations and make it happen. So that's what we're just trying to do, is just do a little small scale pilot project of showing what's possible, and do it safely and in a way that the Department of Health, and really where no one can say this is a problem, and make it really clean and sexy and awesome. And then start to have that conversation and say, hey, on top of this, it'll make your incinerators much more efficient, which they already probably know. So yeah.
Sean, before you pass the mic, can you tell folks a little bit about Farmers Union and how they can plug in to advocate for better food policy?
Sure thing. The Farmers Union is a great organization that advocates for regenerative agriculture and family-friendly farming across the nation. But there's a Hawaii Farmers Union United here, and I suppose you can get online at hfuuhi.com or .org and sign up and become a member. Is a really great thing to do. It's really just like a way of putting your name on a list that says, I support what these people do. It's kind of making their voice louder, and they are doing good things and trying to push for this kind of good legislation, among many other things. So it's just a really simple way to support what good work is being done.
Yeah. Hawaii Alliance for Progressive Action is also another great organization that can plug you into the legislative process. Sustainable Coastlines. DeRay is doing really great work at Surfrider. So there are many organizations that are now walking the Zooms, meeting with your legislators and asking them to build a regulatory framework in Hawaii that supports regenerative food systems. Because Joel Salatin, who's a farmer that practices the high density, diversified rotational grazing in this film, has a book. It's called Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. And it talks about how the laws that govern our food system are there to benefit industrial scale ag, and they regulate small scale diversified farmers out of existence. The only way that we're going to change that is if we engage in our legislative process. So I really encourage you to plug into these organizations that are tracking legislation, giving you opportunities to testify. And I will tell you, when you participate, it absolutely matters. And the thing that's incredible about Hawaii is that we have been a leader in drafting and passing legislation that's really transformed conversation around food systems. We created the United States' first greenhouse gas sequestration task force that prioritizes food and agricultural systems as a driver for sequestering carbon. And that only happened because folks like you participated in lobbying those bills. So please plug in, please engage, because the rules of the game are set up to benefit the few, but we can change that so that it benefits the many. Snap, 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 snap.
Here, here.
Other questions? There was one in the back. Yep. Limit to 2 minutes in case you have a speech.
Aloha, my name is Nick, and yeah, I'm really sassy, so I could ask you a whole choke buttload of questions.
Yeah, I can see it. I felt your aura.
Take plenty of notes and all that kind. Yeah, my name's Nick. I'm from the Ewamoku here on Oahu. Sup, Kamu? It's my brother up there. So I'm gonna try to put this on to one question. By promoting eating livestock raised using regenerative ag practices, are we misleading the public into thinking that meat consumption can be sustainable when we really need to drastically reduce all consumption of animal products? I ask this because is regenerative livestock even practical in Hawaii, given the amount of land required, and is it better to vote that land to raising invasive livestock when it might be used for other purposes that more truly support the health of Kanaka Maoli, Hawaiian lands, and culture?
Great question.
What's up, Nick? Nick is a Hama. He's at Nanakuli High School, so he works with students in Nanakuli on a daily. So when I recruit, I go hang out with Nick. So mahalo, brother. I think that's it. I'm not a person that does livestock, so I don't want to misrepresent that industry. What I do think is, part of what it wasn't in the conversation, which I think is really vital, is the role of subsistence practitioners. And cattle was introduced, but our lean proteins came from the ocean, and it came from how we tended our local ia, and then the pelagics outside of it, and the koa. So I think there is an opportunity that is being raised by meat consumption to look at, well, what are subsistence practices around the fisheries, that if we're going to look at replacement, or how to have a comparable way to get our proteins locally, that we have systems that were thousands of years old that we can be in the space to look at in that conversation. That being said, I don't have any question. I don't have any I'm like mansplain cattle stuff. I don't have anything about cattle, but I think it's an important conversation. It also lifts up the opportunity to talk about subsistence practice when it comes to our proteins.
Thanks, Kamu. Yes.
I would just add, I think it's a great question, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think that in terms of what we promote for an area, for what kind of food should be eaten there, I think it's really important to look at the indigenous roots of what kind of food was grown, what subsided the culture that was here, and grow those things, and try to eat those things and try to create diets around those things. So shout out to people doing work with kalo and doing work with ulu, and like getting it onto plates like tonight, and in other events like this. So that those are crops that really could sustain us, and they're amazing, and they're delicious, and they grow super well, and they don't require a lot of effort. We can plant forests of these things. So yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I think it's important to look at the situation we're at and think about how we can transition. And maybe there's practices we can use that make sense during a transition, but are not meant to be long-term, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thanks, Sean. Other questions? Thanks.
KFC. Yeah, and the Hawaiian homelands has been created over there. I mean, I'm not from there, but I see that on that land, instead of, they call it, shucks, I forget. I know they get Ola in the name, but it's supposed to be like a healthcare center because they get CVS, and then they get place for you to, dialysis, yeah, and then right next to that, they get what, Starbucks and Taco Bell? Like, what is that? That's crazy. So it's just kind of looking at the food systems that we have now and what is affecting the people right now. It's hard to say like, oh, we need a smooth transition away from these things that are poisoning the people. And it's like, well, what can we do radically? Like looking at the Waianae diet, kind of like what you're talking about, like using kalo, using ulu. Like, yeah, it's all right on, you know? And I don't know, that's just kind of how I see things. But I mahalo you for all that you did answer, and appreciate you giving me the space to talk. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Say hi to your friends.
Sup, bro?
Hey.
Yeah, hey, Hawaii, mau. Hui.
Any other questions? Yes.
Can I ask, you know how you were saying measuring with technology, the Ma'o system? I had a question like how you were doing that. Also, do you have any protocol for the little red fire ant? Like, you know, because if you bring the inputs in, I heard that a couple of the most oldest organic farms on the Big Island, the people gave up because of the invasion of the little red fire ant, which is an international phenomenon. So I'm thinking like if you have a community of regenerative organic farmers and everybody just bringing anything in nowadays kind of dangerous. So need to think more about the protecting the perimeter, or what are you doing with that? Also question about integrative pest management. Like if you're doing something like Puerto Rico's, or, you know, or what kind of stuff are you doing with that, or buddy planting, or did you have some specialists at Ma'o? Those are my questions. Thank you.
But the caveat was when I was at Mall, I wanted to farm, but it cost too much money, so I spent way too much time in the office doing program design. But I think the parts they can answer, the metrics is really important. So the metrics that we track on a daily basis is sales and GPAs, sales of the products and the GPAs of the students, and that they were linked. And those metrics made us move past being angry Hawaiians to job creators and degree designers. And those are the same two metrics that our kupuna used though when they gauged the efficacy of their production. So pre-contact Hawaiians were self-sufficient not only on islands, but in valleys. And what they do at the end of every year was they do this thing called the makahiki ceremony, where they'd have fitness of people and abundance of food. And that's a year in reporting to your chief. So I was able to see like what are the two core things that are being measured to ensure that there's efficacy happening in the valley. So that's how they got their contract renewed. So we tried to find those answers through correlatives and find contemporary analogs, so that our being successful in contemporary systems didn't alienate us from our practices. So we're starting on it now. They're starting to track BMIs and those types of metrics, which make the intervention really pencil out to contemporary policymakers and funders, but deepen the practice in community. In terms of like fire ants, we didn't have a problem when I was there, and I'm gonna knock on plastic to make sure the shit's wild. And integrated pest management, and part of it, there were different types of systems that were used to manage, but I think part of the whole process was using many crops. We didn't monocrop, crop rotations, trying to use like as much as possible pyrethrum or neem or stuff that was really, even though it's natural, it still has that kind of resonance. But the challenge in any type of project that you're going to take it to scale and market is you have to either factor in loss or add cost to the cost of production to think about pests. So it's a challenge whether you're organic or not, but it means that you always have something to work on.
So I'm going to close this out with a final question requested by Jure, which is what's giving you hope right now?
This conversation. I guess the connection being made between food waste and climate change feels really hopeful, and the idea that it's a really tangible solution and not just something to do, but something that can actually get us out of this mess gives me a lot of hope. Yeah, seeing people start gardens and just in their own small way. Like I really think that it's going to be small steps, many small steps all happening. That's going to make all this happen. So I'm hopeful.
I think about this a lot as a parent, and the thing that makes me hopeful is that our ancestors were chosen to get on a canoe to come here, and they lived through losing 90% of the population. So we already had our fucking apocalypse, and we're on the other side of it. And who are we not to be hopeful if we've already lived through all these things? And the closer you are to the land and each other, humans are incredibly creative. And I think with those right things in place, we'll figure it out. And I think it's going to be the opportunity to bring, as Einstein said, the mindset that created the problem can't be the mindset that solves it. So if people are saying, oh, it's screwed, it's just because they have the wrong mindset. And I think when we can start to imbue what we know from our ancestors into contemporary conversations, we're going to find the thing that iterates us forward.
That's a great way to end. So I just want to thank you all so much for coming out on this Friday night. I'm sure it's some of your first public forays into this semi-post-COVID reality. We're really grateful for you and for your support. You can find us all on the internet through many different websites. But to connect in with Center for Food Safety, our website is centerforfoodsafety.org. And again, our video series is soilsolution.org, Full Circle Farm.
hi.org.com.
.what?
.com.
How can we find the Office of Indigenous Innovations? Cannot. Yeah. And with that, I'll just mahalo you guys. Have a great night. Don't mingle too long.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.